All right, it might be stating the obvious, but Jerome Powell not going off on any ledge here, one way or the other, to characterize the trade back and forth, saying that resolving this with lower tariffs would be the way to go. If it doesn't go that way, it would not be the way to go. Sometimes we all, opine on this, but the bottom line is that's not a shocking statement. What would be is he said, no, this is not going to really affect anything. So what will happen as this trade war escalates? Because it's officially a war now. We're going tit for tat with a number of countries, including China. To senior fellow at the National Taxpayers Union, Mattie Duppler, and Charlie Gasparino. Mattie, I think it's safe to say a war is on. Now, it could be a short war, but it's on. What do you think?
Well, I think that the chairman is doing his job and not trying to pontificate on the politics of the nature of the trade skirmish, war, whatever the verbiage is that you want to use. There certainly is a conflict here. And the conflict is, what is the United States going to do about its trade policy? Now, all of this is happening against a very strong economy. We certainly can't refute that. And going into the summer, there's going to be a lot more financial news coming. We've got earnings reports that are coming out the next couple of weeks that are really going to show a lot of business activity here in the United States. That generally would be a source of optimism. But because this is all happening at a time when uncertainty has been injected into the economy because of the trade actions the administration has taken, the question is, what does the outlook look like beyond that? I think Powell is really trying to create an environment in which no matter what happens, the Fed can take a measured response, if any. But really, his job right now is to try and keep there from being an expectations game set only on the notion that trade is going to be the only indicator the Fed is looking at, because, of course, there are certainly other economic indicators out there that result in us having a very strong outlook for the next couple months.
What's remarkable, Charlie, you reported on it a lot, is the markets so far have willy-nilly moved beyond this, maybe not too worried about this yet. What do you think of that?
Well, if you look at those numbers you just had, the Dow and the S&P, they're not up much since the beginning of the year. And if you go back a little further, the Dow and the S&P have been kind of flat, since Trump passed his tax cut plan, and where the.
But it's still been an amazing run-up.
Well, it was an amazing run-up.
Pause would be probably expected anyway, right?
Not a 6-month pause. I think that's the problem.
We're still up better than 4% of the S&P 500.
Yeah, we are, or it's probably a little less than that.
So someone's looking at the half-empty glass.
Well, it's probably a little less than that if you go back to where he signed the bill. Just so you know, I've been crunching these numbers just in preparation for this.
Well, you didn't seem to know how the S&P 500 was doing, so because you're so interested in the trashing the
I just want to use the numbers that correspond to my hatred for Donald Trump.
Understood.
Is that what you want to say?
Right.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, as the markets have shifted from tax cuts to digesting trade, they have traded kind of flat. And I think, I hate to make this a boring program, but I agree with your guest. I mean, it's just like Powell knows that a trade war is bad for the economy. He knows that, we're probably going to get a very good GDP print for the second quarter, probably anywhere between 3 and 4%. I mean, I hear people talking above 4%.
Right.
But I mean, if it's even at 3.5%, that would be very good. And the question is, can that number be sustained? And does trade is this trade stuff, which has real world impacts on workers and farmers?
Absolutely.
And I know it's ironic. It's designed to help workers and farmers, but it's doing just the opposite. Does that have a drag on the economy, which takes a 3.5% to 4% GDP rate and brings it down to more Obama level GDP growth? And one other thing I would say, I still think it's unclear whether sustained long term this tax cut plan will produce the growth that it is. I guess it is touted to, because it was mostly a corporate tax cut, and as you know, they do stock buybacks rather than economic.
Well, we'll watch about that.
Things.
One of the things we're hearing, Mattie, is that part of the meeting that he's going to have with some members of the House Ways and Means Committee, including Kevin Brady, its chairman, is about a tax cut too. One that would jigger a couple of rates, or maybe expand some other allowances. Hard to say. Very unlikely this year, I imagine, but they're plotting something. What do you think?
Well, I think that there's still a lot of runway here to go on tax reform. Now, tax reform was the most important thing the president could have done for this economy in December. And you know that I've been talking about it for years, so I was excited to see that get passed into law. Moving forward, there are a lot of things that in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act we could see improved. And that's certainly a lot of stability and confidence on the individual side. And that's what members of the House Ways and Means Committee have been talking about, making sure that the tax cuts that went into effect for families and businesses stay in effect outside the 10-year window. Because, of course, because of Washington Washington budget antics, they were made temporary rather than permanent. But, looking back at December, one of the main drivers of growth in the tax reform plan was not only that corporate tax rate cut, but also the way that we induce new investment in the United States. And the trade actions that the administration has taken has put a little bit of a deafening effect on that tax cut. What we need is businesses to have confidence to invest here. And we see in reports back from businesses across the country and across the world that there's been a little bit of a softening in enthusiasm for investing back in the United States because of the uncertainty with trade in the administration.
Well, I'm going to push back on you here a little bit. One reason is because just because you give a business, a corporation, a corporate tax cut doesn't mean they're necessarily going to put it back into the corporation. They do stock buybacks, which don't add to productivity.
What happens with stock buybacks, right?
Right?
So
what happens?
You think what happens to stock buybacks?
Here's what happens. Sometimes, only sometimes, the stock goes up. You look at the history of stock.
Sometimes the stock goes up, but you know what happens?
Because you know why? It's an inefficient way. It's not the most efficient way of creating supply side stimulus. And that's the problem with stock buybacks. If Trump and Congress did a very large individual tax cut, according to, look at the numbers, you would get more consumer spending than you have now. And we should point one other thing out. We gave these corporations a huge corporate tax cut, and guess what happened to wages? They remained flat. Look at the last numbers.
Wages are starting to tick up more than we've seen in the last 8 years.
No, they're not. They're exactly where they were.
I'll agree with you here, which is that we need
2.9% year over year. We can argue till the cows come home.
Right.
But fortunately,
they're right where Obama was.
I'll agree with you here that wages need to increase, and we hopefully said.
All right.
All right, Neil. We'll come back and we'll
this.
argue about it more.